Falling oil prices and plunging ringgit, government must step up to the plate. On December 12 last year, I urged the government and in a public message to the people to brace for tougher times ahead because we were facing a double whammy with declining international crude oil prices coupled with a depreciation of the ringgit at levels unseen since the Asian financial crisis of 1997. The prices of Brent crude oil have continued to drop. To date, it has plunged by 53% from last year. That is, from the average $108 per barrel in January 2014 to an average $51 for January 2115. Our ringgit is currently the weakest Asian currency, leaving aside the yen. It has depreciated to 3.55 ringgit per dollar from 3.32 ringgit a year ago. Since October to 2014, the ringgit has lost almost 8.3%. It is true that other Asian currencies have also fallen against the US dollar. But our drop is almost double that of the closest laggards, such as the Taiwanese dollar and the Singapore dollar. Crude palm oil prices have also weakened by approximately 10% to 2,300 ringgit per ton. Income from oil and gas makes up 30% of our total government revenue. The 2015 federal budget that was tabled on October 10 last year was based on an oil price range of US 100 to 105 per barrel. Even before the plunge to the current levels, Petronas has warned that if crude prices average $70 to $75 per barrel, its overall contribution to government revenue would fall short of 8%. That means a shortfall of 19.4 billion ringgit of the estimated revenue of 24 billion ringgit against the 2015 budget projection. Now that the oil prices have dropped by nearly half, what will be the actual impact on our revenue? Now, Maybank Research in its publication says that a revenue shortfall of 8.54 billion ringgit will already outweigh the subsidy saving and result in a fiscal deficit of 4% instead of the 3% target of 2015. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, crude prices may continue to hover between $40 to $50 in 2015. Deficit levels, therefore, may reach as high as 5%. Now, this would be further accentuated if the ringgit continues to weaken and the CPO prices continue to fall. In terms of equity investment, according to CLSA, Malaysia is the worst performing Asian market in 2014. While the stock exchanges in Indonesia, Thailand and Singapore still managed to chart positive growth, our bursa suffered significant decline. Now, with weakening carry trade attraction and fiscal uncertainties, these have driven the ringgit to historical low and pushed MGS yields up and raised financing costs, debt to GDP at 55%. Now, what the government must do now is to act and act swiftly. First and foremost, corruption and leakages must be tackled. We can no longer expect to study the report of the Auditor General this year just to witness a repeat of the excesses, leakages that we have seen during the last years. We have already shown in the Pakatan Rakyat Shadow Budget 2015 that a conservative saving of only 15% in government spending leakages could save almost 20 billion ringgit, equivalent of 1.6% of the projected GDP. Secondly, we must put a stop to the culture of wastage and opulent and spendthrift ways cloaked under shady procurement processes and opaque privatization award. The government must stop sweeping bad debts under the off-balance sheet carpet. There are no alternative to good governance. In this regard, we are already saddled with the scandalous 1MDB, and the people will not tolerate yet another one. Thirdly, a bipartisan national crisis committee should be set up without further delay, comprising both BN government and Pakatan Rakyat opposition MPs, economists, market experts, and other specialists. Inter alia, the committee should be tasked with the responsibility of monitoring commodity prices, to execute any necessary measures to mitigate any negative impacts once a consensus is obtained. Fourthly, the government should be prepared to introduce austerity measures in the event that oil prices go lower and remain there. There must be cutbacks in mega projects while continuing to spend on critical areas such as healthcare, education, and the humanitarian assistance for flood victims. It is true that the movement of international commodity prices is beyond our control. But surely we have control over how we spend our money and manage our overall finances. Now, flood crisis and lessons drawn. It is the same attitude that has resulted in the devastation caused by the recent flood. This general observation that we were not swift enough, that the authorities both at the federal and state seems to lag behind, although we have encountered this problem for centuries. The extent of the damage is of course unprecedented. We do acknowledge it, and this is not time for a blame game, but we need to resolve this and fast. We must commend the NGOs who came in droves to help out. I alluded to this statement during the brief given by Brigadier Azmi, 8th Brigade in Kuala Krai, who was pleasantly surprised at the extent of support from Malaysians of all walks of life, of race, religion, Malays, Chinese, Indians, and probably not from Sabah, Sarawak, who came in droves, volunteering, helping, and assisting. And in some areas, more swift and effective than even government machinery. The tougher times lie ahead as government spending could be reduced and growth slows down. The rakyat needs to remain frugal and not to take additional and unnecessary debts. As inflation continues to rise while wages remain stagnant, the rakyat will face greater economic hardship and income inequality will continue to widen. This is of course a very critical issue in the budget presented for Pakatan Rakyat in Parliament last year. This was our central issue, the problem of inequality between the super rich and the rakyat. And now with the present economic crisis, we believe there's going to be a major problem that will continue to haunt us in Malaysia. Meanwhile, we want the government to come clean on the economic outlook for the nation. The people await Tuesday announcement by Prime Minister Finance Minister Datuk Seri Najib and expect serious and earnest efforts put in for the restructuring of the 2015 budget. Thank you.